الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. نويت تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير ونفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى وبعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. Inshallah, continue with the appendices that we were going through on the divine text, the text of the Imam, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam al-Shati. We move on to Appendix C. Now, Appendix C is people in relation to knowledge. Now, we're not going to go into this one in detail because we've already been through this in the last one about who is a mujtahid in Appendix B. So I will briefly mention the 7 types of individuals that there are between the laymen and the scholars. And if you need more details on that, again, then you can refer back to Appendix B. So number 1 was Mujtahid Mutlaq, who was the absolute Mujtahid. The second group was the Mujtahid Mutlaq fil Madhab, the absolute Mujtahid within the school. Number 3 category was the Mujtahid Murajjih, which was the preferential Mujtahid. Number 4 was the Mujtahid Mukharrij, which was the Mujtahid of derivation. Then you had the Mujtahid Ifta, Mujtahid of legal rulings. Then you had Mujtahid fil Masail, the Mujtahid in specific matters. And then the final one was what most of us fall into, and that is the common Muslims, the laity. And that is Appendix B. So, C. So if you want more details on that, if you need to go over that again, then we mentioned that in Appendix B. Now, Appendix D, what is a cult? The Arabic is al-firqa. Imam Ibn Manzur, rahimahullah ta'ala, the great linguist, he said it is the opposite of the collective or plural, a division. This has been discussed at length by noble imams such as Imam Ibn Hamdan, who dies in 695, as well as Al-Futuhi, who dies in 972 in his text Al-Muntaha, which was also commented on by Shaykh al-Islam Mansur al-Bahuti, who dies in 1051. These classifications can be discussed at length in a separate research, but for now they are here for the general knowledge of the reader, so it can be ascertained what the author intends. In terms of the revealed law, Allah has said, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ تَفَرَّقُوا وَاخْتَلَفُوا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ. Do not be like those who broke into cults and sects after the clear signs came to them. وَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. These have a great punishment indeed. That is Surah Ali Imran, the 3rd Surah of the Quran, verse 105. One of the great voices of the first 3 generations, Sayyidina Yusuf ibn Asbad, may Allah have mercy on him, stated, the foundations of innovation are 4. These are the foundations now, okay, of where all of these deviant sects go back to. They have their forefathers. These are the Rawafid, the Khawarij, the Qadariyah, and the Murji'ah. Then each firqa split into 18 smaller groups. And these are the 72 firqas, the 1072 sects. And the 73rd is the Jama'ah, who the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, they are the saved sect. Kitab al-Sharia, pages 18 to 19. And there is good reason to think on what this Imam said. If you look at this cult and its offshoots, they generally polarize themselves around 6 major errors or one of the 6. Now you need to make note of these, because if anyone makes a wrong belief out of any of these 6, then they become kafir. These are the 6 things. If they are not mistaken in these 6 things, and they have an issue with milad, or they have an issue with anything else, which is, dua after salah, or they have an issue with khatams, this does not make them a kafir. It may make them a deviant because of who this now means they're prescribed to, But in and of itself, it doesn't make them even a deviant, right? It just means nowadays, it just means if somebody says nowadays that they don't believe in Milad, they don't believe in the Mawlid, it's more than likely because they're following the deviants, because that is what they propagate. However, in the early days, if somebody was to say, yeah, I don't believe in Mawlid, but if you want to do it, then I've got no issue with it. I just don't feel like I should be partaking in it, right? There was the difference there. Now these guys will turn around and say, you're mushriks, you're grave worshippers. That's why you want to do Milad. And it is a bid'ah, you're innovators. So that's why you want to do it. So these are the 6. And these 6 points you need to always bear in mind. If these individuals have made any of 6 major errors in any of these 6, I'm just going to mention, they're kafir. They become kafir, they're out of the folds of Islam. Okay? So their belief is kufr, but again, remember, as we mentioned, the job to do the takfir, to label them a kafir, this is for the mufti. It is for the senior scholar. It's not for us. So, number 1, Allah, His names, attributes, or essence. So they make major errors about Allah, His names, His attributes, or essence. So those who attribute physical things liking to humans, anthropomorphism, saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a physical hand, has a physical face, has physical eyes, and a mouth and ears. All of these kind of things. This is a major error. Number 2, they make a major error in the Messenger of Allah, his rank, status, person, or mission. Number 3, the infallibility of the prophets and or angels. So they claim that the prophets or the angels can commit sin. Number 4, or number 2, you may even add into there with the Messenger of Allah, he is just like a man like us. We do not need him in this day and age. Obviously, I'm quoting individuals who have made these statements. Number 4, they make major errors in the Quran and Sunnah, its primacy, understanding, or application. Number 5, salvation, either the result of or receiving it, and finally. Number 6, authority, how we are to apply the faith based upon the understanding of the first 3 generations. Yes?
What does it mean by salvation?
Salvation is najat, forgiveness in the hereafter. Because these individuals believe that your actions are what's going to get you into Jannah, right? So they will say an individual who has done a specific action, then he will not go to Jannah, right? But we say major sins do not take a person out of the folds of Islam, right? So if somebody doesn't pray, he's not a complete believer. He can't be a complete believer because he's not praying. He's a major sinner. And he should be imprisoned until he starts to pray. Now remember, the imprisonment here is for the Qadi to pass the judgment, for him to go to a state prison. It's not for you to imprison them in your basement, right? So Raheel, make sure you don't go around arresting people, please, okay? It's not for you to do, right? And you, brother, make sure, right? I know in Saudi they've got different rules and stuff, but you can't be implementing that in this country, okay? Right? Do you agree? Yeah? Jazakallah. So somebody who does these, he's a major sinner and he should be imprisoned until he agrees to start praying, right? But we don't call this individual a kafir. We don't call them an unbeliever. However, this cult, they believe that such an individual is a kafir and he's out of the folds of Islam. All you have to do is just go onto TikTok and you will see these poisoned videos all over there from this same cult. Now, the word firqa is primarily used for a cult, an aberration or offshoot that have strayed from Muslim orthodoxy. I have translated the word firqa when discussing these groups as cult for that very reason, in addition to the theological understanding that the translator relies upon. The English language also supports this translation. Cult, system of religious worship, as expressed in ceremonies, devotion, or homage to person or thing. Especially, so occultist worship, cult inhabit, cult worship. It should also be kept in mind that the word firqa has also been used for Muslim orthodoxy, but I've translated that as sect, as the context and the wording would lead one to do. And this will become more apparent when more ahadith on the subject are cited if Allah wills, which we have already done, because we're not reading it simultaneously. We've waited till the end, now we're going through it. Appendix E, Salafi amalgamation. Issue here. Amalgamation. Right, slight error here. This is a slight issue. You're quicker. Can you go to my car? It's parked just right there. Open the passenger side door. The actual printed text of divine text should be there. Just bring that here, please. Jazakallah. So we're going to skip Appendix E for now because it's not on the PDF. So I don't know if that's an error on the second edition or if that's an error altogether. But yeah, we'll just wait for the first edition print that I have. The brother's gone to get it. When that comes back, then we'll go back to Appendix E, inshallah. So we'll move on to Appendix F. So Appendix F is a question that I receive all the time because I always mention this, and that is Imam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah's Rarities. So there were some 11 or more issues in which Imam ibn Taymiyyah contradicted the school and breached the ijma, the consensus. So the question always is, Imam, what were those 11 rulings, right? It's not the fact that they're going to turn around and say, oh, maybe we should stay away to just protect ourselves. But just, curiosity killed the cat. So what do? They want to ask, okay, what were they? What were they? Can we please know? Can you please tell us? Okay, let's just check because the brother's already back because he moves like the Flash.
Unless there's
Okay, let's see.
Is there any more copy of them? Is there?
Nope. So you got to make the order. The Sheikh reprints this. These are footnotes. Where are the appendices? Let's go back. Appendices are where? I don't think this has got any appendices in it. No, this one doesn't even have any appendices in it. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I've got. On my phone.
This one doesn't have any appendices. I think because the reason was no, the reason was I'll just record because Sheikh had these down as footnotes. Those footnotes were at the back, so they're not separate. Information. Does anyone know for Appendix E what page did I reference?
I don't know right now. I've got like J and then we use one. 3 or something.
No, that was 307. For those of you waiting at home, bear with us. We're having some technical difficulties. We shall resume very shortly. Which one will be in? Hakika, Qadim, also referring to the Hadith. This is Sham. So I'm going to.
What appendix was it again?
Appendix E. Can you guys see if you've got it? Okay, I think I found it. It's on footnote 45. We'll read this anyway, and we're counting this as Appendix E, inshallah. Okay, so the Salafi amalgamation. For those of you who don't know what the word amalgamation is, look it up in a dictionary. Salafi members in the peninsula, i.e. the Arabian Peninsula, which is common-day Hijaz, which is occupied by the House of Saud, so Makkah, Medina, and all of those areas where you're from, brother. Right? So all of that is known as the Arabian Peninsula. It's known as the Hijaz area, which is mostly Hanbali. That area is mostly the Hanbali. Realize that the people will not take to their ideas. So the Salafis realized that the people will not take to their ideas and that they would not be able to implement them, as there was no absolute link to the first three generations. What they decided to do was to say that they were, quote unquote, the real followers of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Okay, so that's what they did. Originally, they said, remember, they said, we do not follow a school, we do not follow an Imam. To do this is shirk, it's bid'ah, do not do this. But when they realized people will not follow them because majority of the people there were Hanbali, so now they started to say, we are the real followers of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And anyone who was there previously, they weren't really following Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Okay? Others had misunderstood. This is what they said. And the books could be corrected and checked for authenticity. Anything deemed unsuitable could be discarded. This is what they've been doing, right? So they look at the books. Anything that goes against them, they remove it. Salafis outside the peninsula, in places such as Northwest Africa, claim to be the real Malikis. Whilst in India, they claim to be the authentic followers of the Hanafi school, i.e. the washed down version of them, what are they called? The other ones, not the Tabligis. There's them, there's the Tabligis, there's the Deobandis. They're an offshoot of these guys. But there's another one as well. You say Quran and Sunnah. Ahl Hadith, that's it. Good lad. Ahl Hadith. These people. So now they came and they said, we're the real Hanafis, right? So this is what they do. Everywhere they go, they say, we're the real people. Anybody else is incorrect. The same experiment was undertaken by Muhammad as-San'ani in Yemen and in Indonesia with the Darul Islam movement, which claimed to be the authentic understanding of Imam Shafi'i. The technique has been brought into play more so in recent years as some orthodox scholars have made and accepted overtures to the cults and shared platforms. Okay, so what's the issue? This is where my stance differs from some of my teachers, right? We don't share platforms with these guys. We never share platforms with these guys. And our teachers, some of them, they say, look, for the greater good, we should share platforms because there may be people in their crowd that we can guide. And I say, no, we don't share platforms with these guys because what may happen is the people on your side may look at you sharing a platform with these guys and then turn around and say, oh, we thought these guys were incorrect all this time. But he's sharing a platform with them, so they must be all good. It's like, let me give you just a worldly example, the Crips and the Bloods. They hate each other. Now, if you see a Crip and a Blood in America with the two gangs, for those of you who don't know, they're actually Arab in descent. They all go back to the Arabs, like Egyptian and stuff like that. She told us this, right? So now if you see a Crip and a Blood together, right? The Crip is not going to be there with his mind frame saying, right, if a Crip sees me with this Blood, he's going to come all the way. All of the Bloods from the Blood side, they're going to come over to the Crips. And the Blood is not going to turn around and say, okay, all of the Bloods, all of the Crips are going to see me with him. They're going to come and join me. And then vice versa. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? Why? Because they hate each other. They hate each other, and it's not going to happen. Because why? There's issues between them. So similarly here, if you see these people sharing a platform together, regardless of their intention, all that's going to happen is the people that are with you, they're the ones that are going to get confused. They're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. It may be the case that the guys from the Crips are going to turn around and say, okay, our Crip leader is with that Blood leader. It may be the case that that Blood has become a Crip now, or vice versa. Do you get the point? I know it's a strange example to use, but because, the youngers are here, I thought it might be an example that you guys could relate to. So you don't share platforms with them. And look, this technique has only been brought into play and accepted is because individuals have been compromising on matters. So now you've got brothers now. Yeah, this is just a fiqh issue, but individuals now, imams who are Sunni, right? They won't do dhikr after salah. They won't do the prescribed what Imam Abu Hanifa said of astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. They won't do that. They won't make dua. Why? Because now there may be some Salafis in the masjid, and what will happen is they might walk out and never come back again. How's that a bad thing? What? But instead of sticking to your guns, so they come and ask you questions, say, brother, why are you doing this dhikr? And say, oh, well, basically, there's a mention by Imam Abu Hanifa, who obviously he was from the followers of the companions. So this is where he's got it from, more than likely. He's not going to just come out and make it up. And even if he did make it up, he's an absolute mujtahid, so he's able to. But anyway, there's a hadith in the collection of Imam Muslim where one of the companions said he would know that the people had finished praying their salah because they would erupt into dhikr straight after the salah. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's the case. That's what we do. Okay, but why do you make dua? Oh, well, there's many reports that the Prophet ﷺ, for example, said that if you make dua after your Fajr Salah, it will be accepted. Okay, but does it mention anything about you guys all making dua together? No, it doesn't. It doesn't specifically mention that, but we have examples of collective dua. So in and of itself, it may not be a sunnah to do it directly together after Salah, but it is a sunnah, a general one. Okay, so why do you do a general sunnah instead of just doing your own dua? Well, the reason for it is because most people, when they come to pray the salah, they're in a rush. So what they do is they quickly get up and they leave. They don't even make dua. So what I do is I start making the dua, and then people remember. So they think I'm here anyway. He's making dua. Let us just join in. So when they join in, they make dua, and now inshallah through all of that, when I'm making the dua as the imam, I make it in the plural sense, so it encompasses everyone who's behind me. Right? So based upon that, because this is a time of acceptance of dua, it may be the case that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives us all. Right? But if you just drop it all together, that conversation's never going to happen. Never going to happen. Instead, all you're going to do is you're going to get your people saying, oh, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. So then they will just stop making dua. Right? So you need to think that this is what happens, when children take up positions as imams. They shouldn't take up positions as imams. Regardless of how beautiful the qira'ah is, etc., if they're children, shouldn't be imams. Because you need to have life experience and stuff before you become an imam. Otherwise, you just become foolish. So to sum that bit up, never share a platform. Never share food with them. Never share a drink with them. Just stay away. Like I use the example of, shoveling sewage. Eventually you're going to think, you know what, this is not too bad. I can deal with this. Like, he's going to get used to it, shoveling dirt. He's going to think, it's all good. It's not bad, This tactic generally tends to be known as mainstreaming. It is basically no less to claim virtue or lineage by association, and in fact, to use the names to propagate contradictory ideas. By the way, this is definitely Appendix E. It has to be. There can't be anything else. So we've done that footnote, I believe, while we're going through the text. Okay, we just mentioned this one because I think we've already gone through this one as well. Because look, Sheikh eventually, before he had it as just footnotes all in the back. Then he just put footnotes within the actual text in the second edition, and some of the main bits, he's taken them out and he's placed them as appendices at the end. So because we're going through the second edition, it's completely different. So I'm just trying to see which ones that we've gone through and which ones are where. But this one's relevant, so we mentioned this in the Salafi amalgamation as well. The reason the author makes this point is that Salafiyah, although it claims to follow all the principles of Islam, actually flouts them through their novel ways and unbending adherence to one man in all their doctrine. Who? Ibn Abdul Wahhab. They only adhere to one man in all their doctrine. This is why when you see all of them, they all pray the same. They've all got their hands over their chest, covering their breasts, and they're doing splits, right? This is why they do it. This is why they all pray like this. This is why when they're in their tashahhud, they're doing all of this movement and stuff like that. Ding, 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 right? So it's all there. That's why they're doing it. They're all following this one individual, right? So remember, the way of the Orthodox 4 Imams from the first 4 generations is this. With the Hanafis and the Hanbalis, your hand goes over like so, and it's over your belly button area, right? This is for the men, and then for the women, for the men, Hanafis, is that they cover their chest, because that's part of their humility, and they cover it, right? That's within Salah. So what about women outside of prayer? You know, they should cover themselves there as well. Now, for the Shafi'is, it's slightly different. They say that it's anywhere between the bottom of the chest and above the navel, right? So anything there. So when they mention the hadith of the chest, they say it means below the chest, but in that area, that region, okay? No, for men, for the Shafi'is. Now, for the Malikis, they have 2 opinions. The first opinion is that they just keep their hands to the side. They don't even fasten their hands. So if you see a Maliki praying, you'll probably just think, why is this brother daydreaming? Why has he just stood there, right? But he's praying. They just keep their hands to the side. The second opinion in the Maliki school, again, is like so and over the belly button. Right? So the majority opinion is over the belly button, okay, over the navel. That is how the men pray. So basically, pray like a man. Please don't emanate the women by putting your hands up there. Some brothers go even extreme and they just put their hands over, start covering their Adam's apple. And I'm not mocking anybody. This is exactly what I see here. Some brothers who randomly just come in, you know, they don't know what they're doing. They've just been to Makkah, or they've been to Medina, or they've gone to one of these other masjids which are not Hanafi, and they've just seen some brother doing X, Y, and Z, and now they think that they should do it as well, going on like they're a mummy or something. You know, so you need to look at what the Imam said. The 4 Imams set everything out for us. We don't need a group of people who came only 200 years ago now to change everything. If you're going to follow someone who only came 200 years ago, you've got some serious mental issues and you need help. You definitely need help. And by placing all their hopes in one single messianic figure, they will oppose, spiritualize, or distort whatever may seem to be at various with the opinions they cherish, right? So anything that goes against their, beloved Imam, their false prophet, then they will reject it and they will mock it, okay? And this is what they do. Appendix F, the Rarities of Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah. There were some 11 or more issues in which Imam ibn Taymiyyah contradicted the Hanbali school and breached the ijma, the consensus. Because of this, his own students and the other Imams of the madhab, they rejected his views on this matter. But he is still an authoritative figure within the school. However, he broke ijma on these 11 matters, so they reject these 11 rulings of his. So what are these 11 rulings? So I'm going to make a note for the Jamal, because he's been pestering me about this for a very long time, and I keep refusing to answer him. So I say, it's got nothing to do with you. You don't follow the Hanbali school, and you don't follow Imam ibn Taymiyyah. So why are you asking me? Right? And I say the same to anybody else who comes and asks me. But I do say to them, if you really want to know, go and get a copy of the divine text. It's mentioned in there. So this is the first time I'm openly mentioning it. It's a good time for you to be in itikaf. It's a good time to be alive. Number 1, the knowability of the essence of Allah in this life. He believed that you can know the essence of Allah in this earthly life, whereas we believe no one can know the essence of Allah in this life. Maybe if Allah unveils it to us and reveals it to us, we will know it in the hereafter. Number 2, the knowability of the names and attributes of Allah in this life and the hereafter. Again, this is to know the meaning of the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life and the hereafter. Number 3, the infallibility of the prophets. So he mentioned that they were not infallible, that they can commit minor sins. Number 4, the abiding nature of the great fire. Number 5, the qualities of absolute ijtihad. Come on, I'm reading proper slow today, man. Okay, so number 4 was the abiding nature of the great fire. Number 5, the qualities of absolute ijtihad. Number 6, 3 divorces in one sitting. Number 7, the intercession of the prophets, pious and saints. Number 8, the visiting of graves and setting out on travel to them. Number 9, whether or not previous revelations were corrupted in nature or interpretation. So what he said was that they were not corrupted in nature, but they were only corrupted in interpretation. Right? So the actual works, the revelations themselves, they were not corrupted. It was just the way that people interpreted them that was corrupted. But we say no, they were fully corrupted. This is why there's nothing there for us now to relay back to with regards to the previous scriptures. Number 10, whether the world was created from nothing or was eternally existent. Number 11, the state of the dead. These and other issues are known by his contemporaries to have been breached by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. However, this is not the work for such research to be carried out. Rather, it was only to headline what the author said with regards to the issues of contention. Okay, so here, the Imam, he's saying that this is just a brief outline, but this is not within the scope of the text to start going and mention about everything that Ibn Taymiyyah said, which was incorrect. However, there are many works refuting him on it. Okay. Now, Appendix G, the definitive statement on 3 divorces. What is the issue with that? I believe that's the only one that he's actually going to go through. Does 3 divorces in one sitting amount to 1 divorce, or does it amount to 3 divorces? Okay, so what Sheikh's going to do now is a lengthy appendix now, where he's going to go through all of the views of the scholars within the Hanbali school with regards to this matter. So, Appendix G. This issue has been used frequently by the cultists and at times by erring Orthodox believers. It is popularly known that both Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, at some points in his career at least, maintain these positions now. Whilst we cannot go into great detail in this small research, we can certainly give food for thought to the reader. We will quote a large body of authorities from the past so that Muslims can begin to consider this matter carefully. Okay, so what did the Imam say? Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, who dies in 241 after Hijri. Now remember, these guys claim to be followers of the true position of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Now in his book, Masail, Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Mas'ala number 1334, he says, if the man delivered 3 divorces in one sitting, it is 3 divorces. And if he did this with a woman he had not been with yet, then she would not be permissible for him until she had married another spouse. And the marriage failed and she divorced, then they could remarry. Okay? What we've already said. We had a whole discussion about divorce, remember? This is it now. We're telling you what all the scholars said now. The eldest son and the most senior of the children of Imam Ahmad, Imam Salih al-Baghdadi, who dies at 265 after Hijri, narrated the same thing from his father and also taught this understanding to his student, Imam Abu al-Qasim al-Khiraki, who dies in 334 after Hijri. Imam Khiraki said, and when the man divorced his wife 3 times at one moment, even if he intended only one, it is 3. In Al-Mughni wa Sharh al-Kabir, Volume 8, Mas'ala 6016. Imam Ibn Abi Musa, who dies in 428 after Hijri, said of talaq, whoever pronounced 3 talaq upon his wife in one sitting or a number of sittings, this is an irrevocable divorce. They may not come together again until she has married another, that marriage fails, and they divorce. Al-Irshad ila Sabil Rashad, pages 287 to 288. Imam Mahfuz ibn Ahmad al-Khalwadani, died 510 after Hijri, said the following: if he said to his wife that she was divorced 3 times in one sitting, then irrevocable divorce comes into effect. Al-Hidayah, pages 423 to 424. They should not be confused with the Al-Hidayah of the Hanafis by Imam Marghinani. This is a different Al-Hidayah. This is for the Hanblis. Imam Muwafaquddin ibn Qudama died 620 after Hijri. He stated, if someone should give 3 pronunciations of divorce in one sitting, it is counted as 3. This is even if he intended once. It will be impermissible for them to be together until she marries another spouse and the marriage failed and she divorced. Then they could remarry. Al-Mughni wa Sharh al-Kabir, Volume 8, page 239 to 240. Imam Fakhruddin ibn Taymiyyah, who dies in 622, made this declaration. So Imam Fakhruddin ibn Taymiyyah, who dies in 622 after Hijri, whoever pronounced 3 divorces upon his wife in one sitting or 3 times at different sittings, then the divorce is irrevocable and she is not permitted to reconcile until she marries another husband. The marriage fails and divorce results. At that time, she is eligible to return to the previous husband. Recorded in Bulghat al-Saghib, pages 287 to 288.
One question, sorry. So you know the woman just refers to remarrying and coming back to the original husband. Does that free single, does that happen again, or if you divorce one more time, does that?
No. So the question is, if they do remarry again after all of that, then what is the case with that? Do the divorces carry on, or does it reset? No, the counter resets. Okay, so now he's been given another chance because he was stupid enough to give 3. Now, if he gives another divorce, it will be 1. Okay, so it doesn't carry on. The uncle. So Imam Fakhruddin ibn Taymiyyah was the uncle of. Sorry?
The uncle of Shahabuddin ibn Taymiyyah. And the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah himself, so he's the grandfather. Fakhruddin is the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah.
So bear with me 1 minute. No, he's the grandfather, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the grandfather.
Yeah. Okay, it's because he's normally referred to as Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah. But here he's been referred to as Fakhruddin. Yeah. So that's where the confusion is. Yeah, that is the grandfather. Jazakallah khairan for that. Imam Baha'uddin al-Maqdisi, who dies in 624 after Hijri, he remarked, and it is disliked for him to divorce one of his wives by pronouncing 3 divorces in one moment, as there is no way for him to take his wife back. Instead, he should divorce according to the Sunnah. So in this way, he may take his wife back, which is to give 1 divorce. And when that 1 divorce should be when she's not menstruated. This avoids him having to wait for her to marry again. And after that marriage failed and she divorced, then they could marry again. Al-Udda, Sharul Umda, Book of Divorce. The Imam said at another point, and if he said to his wife, you are finished, you are far removed, you are permanently finished, and he intended divorce, it all counts as 3. Regardless of the terms that he used. As long as it amounts to divorce and he had the intention, it's divorce. unless he was using emphasis and something less was intended, right? So he was just saying, no, you're finished, right? Like Suf always uses that term, no, you're finished. But he doesn't mean divorce, right? He's just saying, no, you're a weirdo, right? That's what he means. He doesn't mean that I'm going to divorce you, right? So by that, it would not be a divorce. That's what he's saying.
So if you say that,
I'm done with you. It's over. To safaroko. To safaroko. Yeah. My man's there, like he's divorcing her, but he's calling her tussa as well at the same time. मैं आपको फारिग करता हूँ. मैं आपको फारिग करता हूँ. Yeah, it's no joking matter because people are stupid and they end their marriages without because of their stupidity. And some people, they divorce. It's a common thing where they're actually divorced and they're still living together because they think they're still married, right? And most of the tribulations and stuff that you see in dysfunctional families, and then it spreads over to the children. It's because of the parents, because they're not married. Their marriage broke, so now they're just living in zina. And that spills over to the children, man. So that's why, man. It doesn't matter how much of a big man you are. If you can't control your mouth, you're not a big man. You're just a silly little boy, because a man would always be able to control himself. Right? He would know, okay, wait, I'm having an argument. I better not divorce. Because if I divorce now, okay, the kids are going to get impact. Then you have those who are like, yeah, and you said this to me, and then I said this to you, and right, that's over. Divorce. And then 10 minutes later, Imam said, I made a mistake. I said divorce 3 times to my wife. Congratulations, you're divorced now. Yeah, it has. And I do the exact same thing. So congratulations, you're divorced now. Yes.
If the woman does it count the same way?
No, the woman cannot divorce the man. Why? Because I know we're living in 2023 and everyone can be anyone, and anyone can be everyone, and feminism and all of this kind of stuff, and but the reason for it is because women are emotional. Women are proper emotional. A man may turn around and say, I'm going to go say itikaf, and she might say, it's my birthday, what's you're in itikaf? Yeah, but I'm going to go do ibadah. I divorce you. Yeah. Right? Why? Because they're emotional. The emotions will take over them. Obviously, because it's a depressing subject for me, so I'm trying to lighten it up. Otherwise, I get depressed thinking about all the phone calls I get. Right? It's really upsetting, man, especially when children are involved. It's really upsetting, man. And then, some people, some imams, they actually advise these people to say, send them to an imam who follows the view of Ibn Taymiyyah, then he will give them the go-ahead to stay living together. Yeah, man, Abne Sunnis. Yeah, so they say to them, go to a Salafi and get the stamp of approval. Oh man, this is just madness, man, and it's just any of you guys who are married, man, the only thing I can say to you, and those of you who are going to get married as well, inshallah, just control your tongue. Just control your tongue. Saying divorcing your wife is not an easy thing. It's not a joke, especially when kids are involved and stuff. Because I'm telling you, once your anger's calmed down and Satan's done what he's wanted to do, he wanted you to get divorced. Once he's done his bit, he's going to chip. He's going to go and he's going to start dancing and happy and all of that kind of stuff, right? He's like, hey, party, and you're on your own now. He's done what he needed to do. Now you're there. Now you're only left with your thoughts and you're just there like, oh man, what on earth have I done? That's it. Now you got to live with it. And if you ring someone like me, it's like, hey, Mom, I divorced my wife 3 times. Good for you. And that's all you will get. But even if you go to a Wahhabi cultist who will say to you, yeah, this view of Ibn Taymiyyah, and even though it's completely rejected by every single imam, right? You can go and you can live in zina, then this will be on their head. It will be on their head on the day of judgment. There are 2 narrations within the madhab regarding interpreting this speech. One is that it is 3 divorces, even if he intended 1, as this has been related from Sayyidina Ali ibn Umar and Zayd ibn Thabit, and as no one differed with their conclusion. it is consensus. The reason for this is that the wording is judged by what is established. So it is considered as 3 divorces at once, as if he had said them all at once. The ruling intended is explicit in his words. You are away from me permanently. And this, the same, is for other phrases like cutting, severing, which severs the marriage in its totality. Disavowal or declaring separateness of a woman, you know what? So we'll come back, sorry. Disavowal or declaring separateness of a woman declares separateness from the marriage, and there is no way this speech could be held unless it was 3 and nothing less than that. It is not possible speech such as this could be referring to one divorce pronouncement only, as it is not possible such an explicit pronouncement could mean that without the equivalent be meant. And it is the same thing for indirect statements. The second position is what has been mentioned by Imam Mahfuz al-Kalwazani, where the intention will be taken into consideration. Al-Udda, Sharul Umda, Book of Divorce. Okay, now, got a slight issue here. Mr. Mutib. Imam Fakhruddin ibn Taymiyyah is not Imam Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, because he died 30 years before Imam Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah. Now we know Imam Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah was the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah.
I'll have a look.
Bear with me. Okay. Yeah, it's what you said in the first instance. So then you confused it. So you went back on yourself. Okay. So Imam Fakhruddin ibn Taymiyyah is the uncle. He's the uncle of Imam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah. Okay. Who's the individual that we're referring to now. Imam Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah is the grandfather, right? And the father is whom? Shihabuddin ibn Taymiyyah. Okay, so that's that. Man, I really hope Sheikh hasn't just logged in to see that, man. He'll be like, you absolute plunkers. Imam Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, he died in 653. He stated emphatically, whoever pronounced 2 or 3 declarations of talaq upon his wife in one sitting or several sittings, in one statement or several, in a period of purity or several, then it does indeed take effect. Al-Muharrar fil Fiqh. Okay, so here, it's haram for you to give the divorce in to a woman while she's on a menses, on a menstruation. But if you do, it still counts. Okay. Now, Imam Shamsuddin ibn Qudama, who dies in 683 after Hijri, has mentioned the same ruling with almost identical wording. In Al-Mughni wa Sharh al-Kabir, volume 8. Imam Ibn Hamdan, who died in 695, tersely remarked, if he divorced his free wife with 3 talaq or his slave wife with 2 talaq. Okay, see here, wake up, see here, the word that he uses. Because if he divorced his free wife with 3 talaq or his slave wife with 2 talaq in one sitting or in several sittings, with 1 word or several words, and he had not had sex with her before then, this comes into effect, although it is disliked to do so. In Ar-Ri'ayah, volume 2, pages 1006 to 1007. Okay, the reason why I mentioned that is if you go back and watch the video on the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ, there's a reason why I just mentioned that. Okay, Imam Sayfuddin al-Qati'i, who dies in 739, gave a summarized reply. So if he should pronounce 3 divorce pronouncements in one upon his wife, and the intention was 3, then the divorce does indeed take effect. Idrakul Ghaya fi Ikhtisar al-Hidayah, pages 223 to 224. Imam Badruddin Asbasalar al-Ba'li dies in 777 after Hijri, said of this topic, The man has possession of 2 talaq upon his free wife and 2 talaq upon the slave wife, and although impermissible, 3 talaq at once brings talaq into effect. The talaq of the one who consummated marriage in a monthly cycle, period of purity, and the like still takes effect. At-tasheel fil fiqh. Yes.
The slave rule is it for us as well?
What?
Did the law for the slave rule?
No. Yes.
What's the difference between slave wife and normal?
When you go on, I'll tell you. Watch the video on the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ. I explained it in a detail in there. Now, Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. Now, if you look at here, we've got rulings now from Imams going across the centuries, starting all the way from Imam Ahmad, dotted along each century. You'll find all these scholars coming out saying the exact same thing. But then you got these guys come out, like, no, 3 is 1. Okay, where have you got that from? No, it doesn't matter what you're saying because you're breaking ijma. And because you're breaking ijma, it's going to be rejected. It doesn't matter how much you bang on about it. And, every time they give somebody this view, that's on their head. It's on their head. Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, who dies in 795, may Allah have mercy on him, when discussing this topic, he said, there are some things that one has been forbidden from due to tender mercy and goodness. Then if he does not abstain from doing the action, but does it and brings about hardship upon himself, this does not mean that one he did is not valid. For example, someone who fasts or travels while it's ill has been forbidden. But if he should fast, the fast will be valid. Someone who fasts in the day and night concurrently, although being told not to do so, would have a valid fast if they did. So that means without having iftar. The same could be said for someone who is ill and prays while standing up, although he should sit down. He does harm to himself by his action, but his prayer is valid. There is also the one who has some injury and fears if he takes a ghusl, he will become more ill. But then he does anyway, which is valid, although he has been commanded to make tayammum. It is forbidden to fast the whole of the year without break, but if someone does it, the fast is valid, although it is forbidden. When someone prays throughout the night and does not sleep, his prayer is valid, although he has been forbidden from doing the action. And the same holds true for someone who makes 3 pronouncements of divorce at once. Although it is forbidden, it will take effect. Jami'ul Ulum wa Hikam. Imam Muhammad ibn Ali al-Umari, who dies in 820, it is established that if he pronounced divorce upon his wife 3 times in one sitting, then this does indeed take effect. An-Nazm al-Mufid al-Ahmadu. Imam Burhan ud-Din ibn Muflih, who dies in 884 after Hijri, he elucidated, whoever pronounced 3 talaq or 2 in one sitting upon his spouse with 1 word or several words in a state of purity in which he did not have sexual intercourse with her, this takes effect, but it is disliked. Al-Mubdi fi Shar' al-Muqni. Imam Alauddin al-Mardawi, who dies in 855, gave the following detailed reply. So whoever pronounced 3 statements of talaq upon his wife in one sitting or several before the first reconciliation, this counts as 3 statements of talaq. This is even if he did not intend it to be so. This is the authentic position of the school. There are a number of statements from Imam Ahmad on the matter, and this is what all the companions of the school are upon. In fact, even the 4 Imams as well. The Shaykh Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, held that 3 pronouncements of talaq made in one sitting or a number of sittings before the first reconciliation is to be counted as 1 talaq. He said, we don't know anyone who made a distinction between the 2 forms of talaq in a gathering or several gatherings. It was claimed by Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah that his grandfather, Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, said that 3 divorces given in one sitting or several sittings is to be counted as 1, and that he gave this statement in secret sometimes. This narrative is quoted from Taqiyuddin in At-Tabaqat. Please see Al-Muqni wa Sharh al-Kabir wal Insaf, volume 22. As we know, that's incorrect because we just mentioned the view of Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah with the reference. Imam Ahmad al-Shuwaiki, who dies in 949, stated regarding the topic, whoever declares 3 talaq upon his wife, then this comes into effect, although it is impermissible. And this is whether she was in a state of purity or not, whether they had engaged in sexual intercourse before or not. التوضيح في جامع بين المقنع والتنقيح volume 3. Imam Musa al-Hajjawi gives his ruling. And if he said to his wife, you are free from me, or you are divorced from me completely, 3 divorces are counted, even if he intended only one. Road or Mubi, pages 433 to 434. Let me put a little error here. Yeah. Okay, so it's sheds on that. Okay. Right. No worries. Okay, so we've got another remark from Taqiyuddin al-Futuhi, who dies in 972, who mentioned a similar thing in Muntaha al-Iradat, volume 4. Then you have Imam Ahmad ibn Awad al-Mardawi, who dies in 1040. He gave this statement. So if the man pronounced divorce upon his wife thrice in one single sitting or in one statement, then the divorce does indeed come into effect. Fatwa Wahab il-Ma'arib, volume 3, pages 177 to 178. Imam Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi, who dies in 1033 after Hijri, declared with authority. So if the man pronounced divorce upon his wife 3 times in one single sitting or in one statement, then the divorce does indeed come into effect. This is although it is impermissible to do so. Na'il ul-Ma'arib li Na'il al-Matalib. Imam Abdul Qadir al-Taghlabi dies in 1133, gave the same ruling as just mentioned. Imam Mansur al-Buhuti, who dies in 1051, declared, and if he divorced his wife using 3 divorces in one statement, it happens, and she is no longer his wife. This remains the case until she marries another spouse. The marriage fails and they divorce, then she may remarry the previous husband. Ar-Rawd al-Murbi, pages 430 to 431. Imam Muhammad al-Balbani, who dies in 1083, proclaimed, whoever pronounced divorce upon a free wife 3 times in one sitting, or a slave wife twice in one sitting, because it's less for a slave girl, right? You give her 2 divorces as opposed to 1. Then the divorce takes effect and is not valid for them to remarry until she has married someone else and the marriage has failed and they divorce. Then after that point, she may marry the previous husband. And that's recorded in Aksar ul Mukhtasarat. Okay, so bear with me. Let me see how many we've got left. We're almost done. It's got a couple of pages. Inshallah. Imam Qa'id al-Najdi, who dies in 1078. What I'm going to do is, instead of just reading all of them because they're all saying the exact same thing, I'm just going to mention all of the Imams now just briefly who agreed. So Imam Ibn Qa'id al-Najdi, who dies in 1078, said the same thing. Imam Abdul Rahman al-Ba'li, who dies in 1192, said the same thing. Imam Mustafa ibn Ahmad al-Dumani, who dies in 1192, said the same thing. All are saying 3 divorces in one sitting upon his wife, it takes effect. Although it is impermissible for him to do it, it's haram for you to do 3 in one go, because that's not the way of Sunnah. The Sunnah is you just give 1 divorce. Imam Uthman ibn Jam'i al-Khazraji, who dies in 1240, he said the same thing. Imam Mustafa al-Ruhaybani, who dies in 1243, said the same thing. Imam Hassan al-Shatti, the author of this text, said the same thing, dies in 1274. Imam Abu Ghani al-Lubadi, who dies in 1319, said the same thing. Imam Abdul Qadir ibn Badran, who dies in 1346, said the same thing. Imam Abdullah ibn Muhammad al-Khulaifi, dies in 1414, said the same thing. Imam Salih ibn Ahmad al-Shami, dies in 1351. He mentioned in his work, so 3 talaq in one sitting is indeed held as 3 in total. Refer to Matalib ul Nuha, volume 5, pages 355 to 356. Hashiyatul Labadi, pages 325 to 326. Aksarul Mukhtasarat, pages 231 to 232. Ishadul Mustashid, pages 368 to 369. And Jami Bain al-Sahihain, volume 3, pages 70 to 71. Footnote number 2175. Okay, now in closing on this appendix. Perhaps the most insulting of all is comparing Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim with Imams Malik ibn Anas and Ahmad ibn Hanbal in the difficulties and public humiliation that they both underwent. Although there is a comparison between the difficulties, pain, and suffering in incarceration, they could not be further apart in the reasons. Okay, so they claimed that just because Imam Ahmad and Imam Malik were incarcerated and they were, went through public humiliation, that the cultists, they came and they said that, Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, they're the same, that they come from the same class, they went through the same thing. Although there could be a comparison between the difficulties that they went through, they could not be further apart in the reasons. Imam Malik ibn Anas was tortured for upholding the ruling that a man who divorces his wife under coercion has not divorced her. The ruler of the time, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, saw that people might take this and make analogy with the fact that he forced the scholars and the people to give him the oath of allegiance. This would mean that people would be free to revolt against him, as his rule was based on force, which cannot be legitimated. Based on this concern, Imam Malik was forbidden from passing this ruling or discussing it, as it might incite the people against his rule. But the Imam did so anyway and was brutally beaten and tortured. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was put in jail most of his adult life for maintaining and asserting that the Quran was the uncreated speech of Allah without any human or created element with it. This earned him torture, beatings, and being made a public spectacle by the governors who patronized this doctrine. But as for Imams Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, they were whipped, beaten, and put on the backs of horses for breaking the law, contradicting ijma, and calling the people to it. So whilst the former scholars suffered due to upholding the truth, the latter two scholars were punished for contradicting it, no matter how noble the intention or endeavor, and insisting on doing so against the whole of the scholars. So there is a contrast difference. So we say, وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ وَصَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ وَسَلَّمَ تَسْلِيمًا كَثِيرًا. Yes. It is mentioned in some texts that they did repent, but Allahu A'lam, if that is actually the case, or if that is just people just saying things. But Allah knows best. Yes, Husnain.
Is there anything in the Hanafi school to say about the divorces before consummating the marriage?
Yes, with the Hanafis, as long as they've been together in private, whether it's been consummated or not, it counts, and he must give her the dowry.
For the others, they have to consummate before it can count.
Yeah. Okay. So وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
It's documented quite well, the punishment of the God.